Well, hello and good evening. Welcome into the championship game edition of the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. The Idaho 8-Man Prepcast is where we stop down each and every Wednesday night throughout the 8-man football season, usually an hour earlier, but tonight we're going live at 7 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Mountain time. We've got a big championship-packed show for you tonight here on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for being with us. My name is Brandon Bainey. Let's introduce you, though, to our panel of 8-man experts. Of course, he's been a mainstay all season, perfect attendance for, I believe, the third year in a row. I don't know if he's ever missed a show since he came on. From the heart of Idaho in Cary, it is Coach Lane Kirkland. What's going on, Coach Kirkland?
Hey, thanks for the rap sheet right there. I did miss one last year and my internet died out, but things are going well, and what an exciting week ahead of us to see these championships take place in 8-man football, and the matchups are incredible.
That was an honesty test, Coach, and you passed.
Thanks. That's right.
For sure. Okay. Also joining us tonight is Will Henneke, live from the Treasure Valley. Oh, wait. Will texted us pre-show and said, hey, guys, I might be coming in late tonight. So the understudy filling the role of Will Henneke tonight, playing the role, will be Paul Kingsbury. What's going on, Paul?
I like to be Will Henneke's understudy. That means I'm always doing something because he just never shows. So it's fantastic.
Can you give us your best Henneke impression?
I can't. This is a family-friendly show, and I just couldn't do it. First thing that came to mind, nope, can't do it.
Okay.
I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come up with something, but yeah.
Okay. Well, all joking aside, we do hope Will is able to join the show at some point. Had to go pick up his daughter from wrestling, so should be here anytime. So, okay, we're ready to rock and roll, except that, well, it's the championship game edition of the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast, so we have to bring on, championship caliber guests, I feel like. We're going to spend roughly the first half hour talking about the 1A state championship game, and then the back half hour talking about the 2A state championship game. And Coach Kirkland, you kind of put this idea in my head last week when we were talking about the Final Four of 2A, where it was Logos, Kamiah, Kendrick, and Grace, 4 teams that Prairie had played throughout the season. And you said, I would really like to hear what Coach Ryan Hasselstrom has to say about all these teams. And I thought, that's a great idea. We should try and bring on a coach that actually went up against each of the teams competing in the state championship this year. So for the 1A state championship game between Cary and Tri-Valley, to help us out, ironically enough, it is a 2A football coach, but he has to fill his schedule with tons of non-conference opponents, and he had both Cary and Tri-Valley on the non-conference docket this season. Longtime head coach of the Butte County Pirates joins us, Sam Thorngren. Hey, what's going on, Coach Thorngren?
Hey, guys. Real happy to be here.
Did you ever think you would be called upon as a 2A coach to offer your analysis on the 1A state championship game?
Oh, but I kind of had an idea it might be coming when I seen the teams in the 1A and the 2A coming up, that we had played them all. So,
well, we're excited to have you on the show tonight here to talk about the 1A state championship game. But first, we got to talk about how we got to this point. We had 2 really fascinating semifinal games, both on Saturday, both on IdahoSports.com this past weekend. We always start the show with our game of the week. Before we get to that, though, I do want to remind everybody, the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast is brought to you by Ideal, Idaho's college savings program. And as you're hanging out tonight, we want to hear from you, the fans in the chat. So if you want to give your favorite coach, team, player a shout out, you want to ask one of us a question, let's be honest, it's probably going to be Coach Kirkland or Coach Thorngren. If you want to ask one of the coaches a question, you can throw it in the chat. We'll throw it up on the screen. And if you could like, share, and follow, this will help everybody else find this a little easier on replay at all the other social media places. You can watch this anytime on replay at Facebook, YouTube, and X. Okay. And now on that note, it is our game of the week. Coach, this was the game you were at broadcasting for us, IdahoSports.com. Cary and Council. What an epic semifinal battle this was. 32-26 the final. Cary, 2 weeks in a row, goes on the road, gets a gritty, gutty road victory. Coach, what were your big takeaways from this Panthers win?
Wow. It was an amazing matchup. Both defenses hold pretty sturdy throughout the game. Cary hanging on to the ball and owning the ball possession and getting some turnovers on special teams. Let's talk about Stockton Sears for just a second. Early in the second quarter, runs a 69-yard kickoff return back for a touchdown. Later in the third quarter, it gets an onside kick recovery as the ball is trying to go out of bounds. It's hovering about a foot off the turf, and he picks up out of the air, and it's Carey's ball. And then making a saving tackle on a fourth down where Council decides to go for it with 30 seconds or so left in the game, and comes up and make a big tackle on Hatfield to force the Carey to give Carey the ball back. Gabe Saili catches a touchdown pass one play later, and then the next play, Carey kicks off, and Stockton Sears strips the ball away from Jim Tucker, and just like that, the game was over and Carey had won. It was kind of right before our eyes. Wasn't appalled that all of that happened so quickly.
It did. It was quick, back and forth. And I was walking around. I was on the broadcast. I was walking around the crowd. I had Kuma, the Idaho Sports mascot, with me. And so we're just walking around, listening to the crowd, watching the crowd, get kind of feel for that. And it was just always the crowd was excited, then they were scared, then they were nervous, and then they were anxious. And that was on both sides. It was just a feeling of pure anxiousness the entire game. And, of course, as fans second guessing this and wishing this had been done. And why doesn't the coach do this? And it was fun being on the backside of that. But all in all, it was a fantastic semifinal game, probably worthy of a championship.
Yeah, really epic battle there for sure. We didn't have room for Stockton Sears on our graphic here because the other three guys played so well. Jonah Saili and Gabe Saili and Will Park and Coach Thorngren. Who are these Carey Panthers? The past 2 weeks, they're slinging the ball around the yard like they're the New York Jets. And, early on, it was so heavy on Stockton Sears. I feel like they're really starting to show some diversity, especially in the passing game the past 2 weeks.
Oh, they really have. They've you've seen them grow up through the season. We ran into them in the second, I think their second game. And they were a little limited passing the ball. They're probably better than we were at it, but they've gotten better and better as the years went. And that's what I was thinking watching the game last week, is they've really kind of rounded into a well-rounded team that can run or pass. And coach has done some good work with them this year.
No doubt. Hey, we have our first shout out in the chat, and it's for you, Coach Thorngren, from Brinley King, watching the best. We love you, Coach Sam. So
that's my stepdaughter. Love you, kiddo.
That's great. We love it. Okay, so Carey plays really well. Jonah Saili throws 2 touchdowns. Does throw 2 interceptions as well. Let's talk about Council for a second here, Coach. The big storyline coming in was Owen Hatfield. He had been banged up with that shoulder. Was he going to be able to perform? Was he going to be on a pitch count? He runs the ball exceptionally well here, right? 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. Only throws it 6 times for 57 yards and a touchdown. Was that more game script dependent, or was it we're really trying to kind of protect him, knowing that, he probably can't rip it like we're used to seeing?
I didn't see anything that slowed him down in this game. If it was on the offensive side running the ball, he ran effectively. He got tackled, landed on both shoulders throughout the game, but I didn't see him come up holding that thing whatsoever. I thought he could have run the ball a lot more, but their passing game was effective as well, but they only threw the ball 6 times. Now, those guys were fast, Lewinsky and Evans, great receivers and able to get free downfield, but they didn't call that very much. But once again, they didn't have the ball a whole lot in the second half, and it seemed to take the wind out of their sails. I thought, in my opinion, that I made them worry just a little bit and got a little bit conservative and kept going back to the run game, and Carey got that figured out on defense and made the sticks that they needed to. And then, what was really impressive by the receivers, we talked about the Carey passing game increasing the last couple of games for sure, was Stockton Sears steals a pass out of, I think, Zielinski's hands right at the goal line early, I think early in the game, somewhere in there. And it should have been picked off, but he was aggressive and went after it. The same kind of for Gabe Saili's reception to seal the game. In between 2 Council defenders, just goes and gets it, and then takes it in for the score to seal the game. It was Carey's aggression, really, and will themselves to make big plays towards the end of this game that carried them to victory, I think.
Carried. I see what you did there, Coach. Sam, you were going to say something too. I guess I'll have to be more specific when I say, hey, what'd you think of this, Coach? Because we're going to have multiple coaches on tonight. But go ahead, Sam.
Oh no, I think Coach hit it on the head. I think he was a little that kid, I forget his name again, the QB for Council.
Hatfield.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. He is a really good player, and I thought he played well. He wasn't limited running the ball. I'm kind of thinking with only the 6 passes, maybe he was hurting a little bit, but he's just a good ball player. And I mean, there's a lot of he runs the ball so well, you want to run him a lot too. So I think it was a little bit of both.
Let me ask you this, Coach Thorngren, because for this group of Council players, this is the first time they had gotten this far into the playoffs. They'd gotten to the quarterfinals before. They'd had some early postseason exit. It's kind of a next step up when you get to the semifinals. And like Coach said, if you're not having the ball a lot on offense, Coach Kirkland said, if you don't have the ball a lot on offense, maybe you do start to get tight and you do start to think a little bit. And I mean, how much of a difference is that a team like Cary that's been to the semifinals, been to the championship before, versus a new group of players that are experiencing this for the first time?
Experience is everything. I mean, the first time you're really kind of just happy to be there, and it's a new experience for everyone. But yeah, those big sudden change moments in the game, they'll be, if they haven't been through it before, those inexperienced teams, they'll really kind of melt down, I guess, in a way, if they're not prepared for it.
Yeah, really fun game. It was a shame that somebody had to lose this, but it is the Cary Panthers moving on, and that means it's time for our final farewell. We do this throughout the postseason as teams are laid by the wayside. We give them kind of one last tip of the cap. So it's our final farewell for the Council Lumberjacks. An outstanding season here, Paul. They finished 8-2 overall. J.C. Tucker, in just his second season, has done pretty good things with this Council program, taking the reins from Andy Glenn. And you see there, these are all of the players that were nominated for Will Henneke's 3-star awards throughout the season. 3 big-time seniors are leaving: Owen Hatfield, Bryson Evans, and Garrison Zelensky. But Jimmy Tucker will be back. He can play running back. He can play quarterback. And they've got probably the best 2-way offensive lineman in the state for 8-man football in Remington Crowell, who will be back for his senior season.
Yeah, and you see the young guys coming back. That's just huge for programs like this, because you have to play with what you've got. I mean, these guys know that that exact thing. You can't just hope for that next class to come in of 200 students. You can pick somebody out or somebody moves in. You really have to play with what you've got. So when you've got the youth coming in and they're already contributing, then coming in just with one more year of experience under your belt, that's great. And 8-2 this year, the good teams are going to, I think, stay good next year. I mean, we're going to see a lot of these teams that we're seeing in the quarterfinals, semifinals. We're going to see them right back here next year.
Yep, for sure. Here is Lee J. Cook, our good friend from Cary, in the chat. One more. Go Panthers. Yes, that one more, though, is a significant one. So let's get to it. The other semifinal game from last Saturday. Boy, can anybody stop the Tri-Valley offense at this point? Who would know? 78-54. Kind of a fun game with Wallace. The Miners fought hard and competed till the end, but Tri-Valley ultimately kind of pulls away 78-54, the final here. We always joke, Coach Thorngren, about the law firm of Wagoner, Noah, and George. Wagoner's the quarterback. Noah is the fullback. George is the running back, and they all rushed for over 1,000 yards this season. Wagoner went over 2,000 yards. They're going to run it with those 3 guys, but how difficult is it to actually stop this rushing game?
Oh, their front line is top notch. I mean, they were stronger than anything we've seen in 2A this year. I mean, all the 2 guards, the center, the ends, they all get into their run fits well. They can really overwhelm you. Like, what's coming, but it's tough to get your kids to stand up to it. They do a good job.
And Coach Kirkland, I think Tri-Valley is kind of in the same boat as Cary, knowing that, we have to be a little more diverse offensively if we want to beat a really good team in the championship. So you see there, Jace Wagoner threw it 11 times. He's averaging maybe 5 or 6 pass attempts a game, and he threw 2 touchdowns, both of them to Elias DeVries. Just another wrinkle that Cary will have to prepare for.
Yeah, it's always good to have those plays in your book and ready to use them and to practice them, and especially in a game-like situation there. But stopping that three-headed monster is going to be a very interesting task for the Panthers, and keeping an eye on a pass that's going to slip out here and there off the heavy play action that can occur, because they are so run heavy, and they really are a great run team and big up front. What I really like from watching some film on Tri-Valley is they continue their blocks to the whistle and beyond, and they're getting into that second level, and that's why those guys are running all over the place. I mean, the team has, I think it's almost 5,000 yards rushing on the year, which is amazing.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. You see, just in this game, Wagner goes for 272 and 4 touchdowns. Noah runs for 209 yards and 2 scores. George, only 96 yards and a touchdown. Come on, Gage. Step it up a little bit, would you? I mean, come on. And Paul, you made a good point last night on our Gem State Game Day show that, it's not just offensively what these guys are doing, but defensively. Jace Wagner has to have double-digit interceptions from the secondary position this year. Elias DeVries, 9 tackles and a sack on defense. Eli Noah had 2 sacks. So really, the Tri-Valley defense, kind of an underreported story also.
Oh, they are, and it's the same guys. Your athletes are your athletes in places like this. And one thing I pointed out last night as well is Jace Wagner is not really a quarterback that can run. He's a running back that can throw the football with those kind of numbers. And when you've got also that same guy throwing in tackles, and laying down hits as well, you kind of want to keep your quarterback protected, but you've got to get your guys out there. And so Noah and Bryce, I mean, all those guys. And on both sides, you're going to see, great defense put out and a lot of tackles put on the same guys that are out catching footballs.
And on the other side of the coin here, the Wallace Miners finished their season 8-3. I was on the call for each of their first 2 playoff wins for IdahoSports.com. I was not able to be there on Saturday. Was it because of me that they lost? I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that, 54 points so against Tri-Valley, certainly. And again, the video game numbers, Cooper Miller, the 3 guys that are on the screen here, Miller and Radford are both sophomores. Larson, just a junior. I mean, 9 catches, 141 yards, 2 scores for Hank, 10 for 147 and 2 scores for Lennox Radford. Miller, boy, one more 5-yard out, Coach Thorngren, and he could have gotten to 400 yards, but I guess 395 and 6 touchdowns, that'll do.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to be happy with what you get.
That's right. Grateful for what you got, for sure. And the fans in Wallace certainly got their money's worth this season. Let's give our final farewell to the Miners. They finished the season 9-3. Jared Young wraps up his 11th season as the Miners coach, and you see all the talent there. They only lose 1 senior. It's Gus Scott, the tight end. They bring back Marley Pierce, the heart of the defense, over 100 tackles this year. One of the few guys that plays only on defense. And then, Miller and Radford and Larson, all outstanding. Coach Kirkland, I can't wait to see Wallace battle Court of Christ again next year for supremacy in the North Star League.
Yeah, that'll be quite interesting. That's a great crew coming back with a lot of experience and a lot of time on the field for as young as they are. It'd be interesting to see if they can add a running back to that scene. Like a Denke from Court of Christ, and what that would do for Wallace's options, not just through the air, but on the ground as well. But they're just getting started. Yeah,
their running back was a sophomore this year as well, Ashton Holbert. And I think, a season in the weight room, he could get bigger. He's already tall, could get a little stronger too. He plays on the defensive line for Wallace also. So yeah, I think that's the one missing piece. You're right. A good, solid running game that isn't Cooper Miller, because they're trying to, keep him healthy and rested for the playoffs and all that good stuff. So our final farewell there to the Wallace Miners. And okay, guys, that means it's time for this championship game. Here's the history. I went back in the archives and looked, Coach, the Cary Panthers making their 17th championship game appearance all time. They're 10-6 in previous championships, including 2017 when they defeated Tri-Valley 50-42. In fact, when you look at Tri-Valley's history, only their second championship appearance in school history. The previous one was that 50-42 setback to Cary. So what do you, and by the way, hi, Will Henneke. Nice to see you.
Hey, Will.
Good to be seen.
For sure. Coach, what are your memories from that 2017 game where your Panthers defeated Tri-Valley by one score, 50-42?
Yeah, it was an interesting matchup, and it was at Middleton, and I think it was in the morning. There was a little snow, I think, scraped off the side for a bit of time. But man, they were loaded, much like this season. I think there were 13 seniors on that team. All of them were fully bearded, 6'3" men, and they were they were incredible. We were not quite sure how that game was going to turn out, but our kids were very, very focused, and they pledged to each other in the locker room and on the sideline that today was going to be their day. And Coach Holloway from Lighthouse was on the sideline, and he says, I said, you got any advice? And he's like, it's going to come down to coaching. And I think it did. I think we called the perfect offensive game to get up on them by a couple of scores and then just hold on. But we did collect 4 turnovers on the day that certainly helped us to be victorious. Coach Saili was in his first state championship on the sideline, helping me call plays as the O-line coach, and we were in unity in our thoughts in getting the play calls out there, and that seemed to be the difference, along with just being able to get a few of those turnovers. So a lot of fun. It's going to be a great 8-year memory going back there, and another great matchup with the Titans for sure.
I heard it in there, Coach Thorngren, a little bit of a brag there. Coaching won the day. That's about as boastful as you'll ever hear Coach Kirkland get. But.
Right, yeah.
No, he was right. He was right.
For sure. Okay, so Coach Thorngren, let me ask you, because you went up against both of these teams this year, Tri-Valley and Cary. What are you viewing as kind of the pivotal aspect to this game? Where do you think this game could be won or lost for either side?
I think it's going to come down to who makes the big defensive stops. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. Tri-Valley's running game, I mean, they're tough to stop. You can't just stay in your base defense and consistently stop them. You got to be able to stunt and stuff to get some big stops. But both teams are going to put up points, so they got to get the big stops on defense, and ultimately it's probably going to be whoever wins the turnover battle. I think whichever team turns it over more times is probably going to be pretty unhappy.
And Coach Kirkland, both of these defenses do seem to generate a high number of turnovers, both Tri-Valley and Cary.
Yeah, Jez Wagner, I think, has 8 interceptions on the season. The big, strong guys on the defensive line and their secondary coming up and making vicious tackles. Tri-Valley has given up 32 points a game on the season, and Cary is at the 17 mark. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Council still leads the 1A league in best defense of the year, with only allowing 14 points, which is going to hold water for the rest of the season, of course. But it's Tri-Valley and Cary in this matchup, and the best team will win.
Yeah, Will, what are your thoughts on this championship matchup? I do think this is kind of the matchup everybody wanted to see. We wanted to see, I think, for Cary, we've seen them play all the teams we wanted them to, because there's so many teams in Cary's league. They don't get a ton of non-conference games, but we got to see Cary play Court of Christ. Check. We got to see Cary play Council. Check. Now we're getting them to see, getting to see him play Tri-Valley. I mean, those are kind of the 3 best teams that were standing in their way.
I've always said that my allegiances can be purchased, and right now my allegiance can very much be purchased, because the reason I was late to join the podcast is I had to pick up my daughter from her wrestling match, and she was wrestling against Tri-Valley, and she lost. So Tri-Valley, you're going to have to talk me back into being a Titan supporter here, Coach Kirkland. I may be shifting over to the Cary bandwagon here, and the game itself, I think you've got a really potent ground offense in Tri-Valley against a defensive front that can stop the run pretty well. So which side is able to impose its will on the other, I think is and then turnovers, like Coach Thorngren said, Tri-Valley could run for 750 yards, and if they fumble it 12 times, I don't know that it's really going to matter.
On the season, Tri-Valley 14 interceptions as a team, 9 fumble recoveries. So that is 23 takeaways for the Tri-Valley defense. For the Cary defense on the season, defensively, They have 8 interceptions, but 10 fumble recoveries, so 18 takeaways. That's fairly even in terms of the number of takeaways there. The other big thing I was looking at here, Paul, are the sack totals. Tri-Valley only 27 sacks this year as a team. Cary has almost doubled that, 43 sacks from the Panthers.
And what that shows is that their line frees things up for their linebackers, and their linebackers are fast. I mean, there's a million things to go into it, but you've got to have a pretty good line, to get through, to get that quarterback razzled a little bit, get him moving around. And so they've got all the pieces. They've got the pieces that not only end up in the sacks, they've got the pieces that can really put that play in motion to get there. And that's a dangerous thing. That's a really dangerous thing. That's one thing that definitely has to be looked at, is careful where you're going once you snap that football.
Now, these two teams may drop back a combined 20 times in this game, so I don't know if the sack opportunities are going to be prevalent too much.
I was actually thinking that. I'm like, why are we talking about sacks in this football?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just fun to talk about. I mean, we're probably not going to get to talk about it during the broadcast. So,
no, you're right. You're right.
Here's Hayden Eulencott in the chat. He's one of our IdahoSports.com broadcasters up north. He was on the call for that Tri-Valley Deary quarterfinal game a couple of weeks ago.
And chirping me for being late, by the way.
He said, Will, don't do it. Tri-Valley doesn't end up in 3rd and longs. They will run the ball at will. I don't think anyone has stopped them this year. Yeah, Coach Thorngren, could we talk about that for a second? When Tri-Valley is churning out 3, 4, 5 yards of carry and they're staying ahead of schedule, ahead of the chains, it makes it hard as a defense to try and, get them to 3rd down, A, and then B, get them off the field.
Oh, it is. And it's hard because you can move guys around to cover up their blockers to try to eat them up. That's those guards. They overpowered us. They really did. So, I mean, you got to be able to stunt. I mean, if you just stand there in your base, you're going to be in trouble. But Cary does a great job of that. They'll blitz the linebackers, stunt the nose. They'll find a way to fill gaps. They're pretty crafty in what they do. I think they'll find a way to there's going to be a lot of big plays, but I think they'll find a way to get 2 or 3 big stops in this game.
Here in the chat, we had a shout out for Coach Thorngren earlier on in the show. Now we've got a shout out from Lacey, rooting for you, Coach Kirkland. Go Panthers. All right.
Hey, you're doing the right thing at home, Sam. Thank you. Thanks, Lacey.
I
like it.
Doing the right thing at home. I'm writing that down.
Yep.
That's good.
That's good. Here's another one of our IdahoSports.com broadcasters from the north, Ryan Skaggs. He was on the call for that Cary Coeur de Christ quarterfinal game. Coeur de Christ ran for 200 against Cary, but Cary's pass defense was way better, only giving up 145 yards on 28 attempts. Coach, I feel like if Tri-Valley runs for 200 plus against Cary, that actually, like 200 is a fairly manageable number, I think, against this Tri-Valley team. Like 300, you might be in trouble, but 200, okay, I think Cary could play with that. Yeah,
I think that would be a good goal for the Panthers, because they are going to gain some yards. I mean, they're great runners, all 3 of those guys. Somebody's going to pick them up somewhere along the way, and that line is incredible. But Coach Sturchy from the Panthers has been in the defensive business now for, I think, 21 seasons, calling those sets and twisting and turning a bunch of guys. You don't know what direction they're coming from. So he'll call a great game. They're going to have to be aggressive, but be cautious, because Wagner, you go too far past him, he's going to pop to the side and make big yards, as he's done on every team this year. So he's a dangerous threat.
Yeah. Ryan Skaggs says Tri-Valley will point at the hole and tell you the play. The question is, will you stop it? And then Will, I love the humor here. The Wallace Miners taking it pretty well in stride. They said the same thing. Tri-Valley will tell you where they're going to run it. Question is, can Cary stop it? We know this from experience. they just lived it on Saturday. Our one stop, they stopped Tri-Valley one time the entire game, and that was when Tri-Valley decided to throw twice on one series.
Yeah, 3,000-yard rushers on that team, including one with over 2,000 in Jace Wagner. And remember, they've done it for the last month without arguably their best offensive lineman out of the lineup injured, and yet they're still doing it. There's something to be said for just being able to go out and execute your offense, and they do that really well. And it, Kerry, I think, has the pieces to make a couple of stops. To Coach Thorngren and Coach Kirkland's points is, can they make a couple of stops, and can they make them at the right time? Can they get off the field? Can they do it in a way that allows them to get out to potentially a couple of score lead? Because if there has been an Achilles heel for Tri-Valley, they can give up some big plays. They have some dynamic defensive players. Elias DeVries, you talked about Wagner, Monty Ingram. We can go on down the list. Wyatt Mora, but they can get hit. They are susceptible to giving up some big plays.
This game will be Saturday, 11 a.m. at Middleton High School. I want to ask each of the two coaches here. Coach Thorngren, how do you prepare a team for an early morning kickoff at 11 a.m. when you're so used to playing at 7 o'clock at night or 1 or 2 in the afternoon throughout the playoffs?
Well, hopefully you've had a couple early morning practices in August or something, but it's hard, but also it's kind of nice to, those kids are going to wake up ready to play. They're going to have trouble sleeping. They're going to be excited. So it's kind of nice not having to wait through the whole day and build up those butterflies, but it's more about you get into your routine. Like us, in general, we start our routine about 3 hours before game time. And that's that you kind of stick to your routine. It doesn't matter if you're playing at 11 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you stick to the routine as much as possible.
Coach Kirkland, notoriously not a fan of those afternoon kickoffs. He likes playing under the lights, but I think for the championship, you could make an exception, right?
These afternoon games will be just perfect, and 11 o'clock is going to be just right, fresh off hopefully a decent rest for both teams. And to Sam's point, these kids are already playing this game as soon as they get to school. They're on huddle, and by 11 o'clock, they've already seen a couple of films. And so I think mentally they'll be there. Now they just got to show up physically and get the job done.
Yeah, here in the chat, Ryan Skaggs, I'll give Kerry this. Their DBs do a great job coming up to stop the run. All 8 guys play the run. And he says at least they aren't playing on a Tuesday morning or a Monday night like some of those bigger schools have to do. We talked about that last week. Sam, what do you think about that, playing a Monday night state championship game?
I don't like it. I'm kind of miffed that we don't have a single Friday night championship game. Everything's on Thursday, Saturday, or Monday.
Yeah, that is kind of a weird quirk this year. Yeah, kind of an
Friday
interesting.
Night Lights. Never mind.
Yeah, not this year.
Never mind.
So, but yeah, Monday would be tough. I don't know why we're doing that.
Yeah. Will, in Montana, they have true home games. So like if this were, so like Tri-Valley would be the quote unquote home team. That game would be played in Cambridge at their home field. Like they've earned that. What do you think about that? True home field.
That could create some really interesting situations. If Kamiah or Clearwater Valley is playing a home game in November for a state championship, just have it turn into a mud bowl. I like kind of the big feel of getting to play at the Kibbe Dome or whatever they call Holt Arena now, or whichever it may be. I've never understood why the College of Idaho's field isn't utilized as a potential. It has lights, it has turf. It could seat upwards of 5,000 people. So I don't know why that one's not in play. I'm sure there's a reason. I can't imagine that, people at the IHSAA right now are going, oh man, why didn't I think of that? But it seems to me that there should be enough good quality facilities around where you shouldn't have to play a state championship game on a Monday night, because, you're talking about those kids, then they play the game, they win the state championship, or maybe they lose it. They have to get up at 7 o'clock the next morning and go to school. You know what I mean? That's a rough gig on a 16, 17-year-old kid.
It's the only slot BSU would give them.
So go somewhere else. And again, I know you're just the messenger here. Yeah. Okay, BSU, you don't have an availability. I'll go find one somewhere else that's better for my kids.
All for that.
Yep. Ryan Skaggs says, fine, just move the game to Worley Friday night, hit the buffet at the casino afterwards.
I'm doing that game.
I've heard worse ideas.
You're right.
I've heard much worse.
They do have that nice turf field there at the Mareeman Health Core Center there in Worley that the tribes did a great job there. The Coeur d'Alene tribe putting that in for the youth and for Lakeside High School and Coeur de Christ until they get their own field as well. Okay, last question here. Hayden Eulencott in the chat talking about Tri-Valley. Just don't kick an onside kick to Mishka Rapp. Ask Deary about it. If you know, you know. I'm going to guess he took it back for 6.
He's a big boy. Big, strong
yeah.
boy.
And maybe trucked a few guys on the way. Give me one player. It could be either side. We'll go around the horn here. One player that you think could be the X factor in this game. Paul, we'll start with you.
Thanks. Jace Wagner. Done. I mean, he's going to have all the yards. He's going to have all the points. I mean, it's if anything happens to him, the whole dynamic of the game changes completely. Obviously, heaven forbid, but I think it all depends on that right there.
Okay, Jace Wagner off the board. Coach Kirkland.
I'll go with Stockton Sears. Same X factor in the game there. He's been carrying these guys for a long time, and he needs to have a big game. He needs his blockers to do some amazing things up front against a stout line. But everything's been riding on him right now, and I think he's going to be the man.
Coach Thorngren.
I'm going with John's boy, Gabe Sully. I want to see how he controls the middle on defense there. If they can stand up to the run game, I guarantee Gabe's going to be having a great game. And he's underrated on offense with his blocking and everything.
Will?
Coach Thorngren, you took my guy, so I'll shift over and go with Park. On the carry linebackers are going to be instrumental in slowing down that Tri-Valley running game. And like Paul said earlier, if Tri-Valley gets up into the 3s with that total, that rushing total, it could be a long day for carry. So they're going to need their dudes on defense to be dudes.
Wow, you guys, 3 carry Panthers, 1 Tri-Valley Titan. I'll take Wyatt Mora on the offensive line at the guard spot. You know, if he can set the tone for that offensive line for Tri-Valley, that power rush game obviously plays defense as well. I think that could be a tone setter there for the Tri-Valley Titans. Hayden says Eli Noah, that would have been a good one too. And talking about Mishka Rapp, he said he did it twice. He took it back to the 10 2 separate times, gave them impeccable field position. I like that word choice there.
Wow.
For sure.
Somebody's been reading a thesaurus over there. Wow.
Yes. And Ryan Skaggs says his picks are Wagner and Park, X factor on offense to take pressure off Sears. Okay. Coach Thorngren, before you hop off here, there is also coming up this month, or maybe already happened, a proposal from some of the 8-man coaches around the state of Idaho to shorten the field for play starting next season, basically moving the sidelines in. I wanted to get your opinion on it. Coach Kirkland is the one who first brought this to my attention. So maybe for the fans that are out there, Coach Kirkland, could you explain, or maybe Sam could, what this proposal is and how it might change potentially how the 8-man game is played here in Idaho?
Go ahead, Coach.
Okay, so they're not going to shorten the field. They're going to narrow it. We're still going 100 yards. But if they narrow it, they basically are going to move each sideline in about 20 feet, I believe.
6.5 feet on each side. So I think it was 13 feet total.
Yep. So it changes the 8-man game a lot. Like when we moved from 11 to 8, when you take 6 guys off the field, that field is awful big. It really is. And so I think the biggest thing it do, it kind of makes teams execute a little better instead of relying just on being out athleting them, beating too fast around the edge, a lot of space. I think it kind of makes the game a little safer to where not every play seems like a kickoff return or whatever. But I think it'll be a good change. You know, we'll go with whatever they decide, but I'm kind of excited to see it.
Yeah, I guess I used the wrong word choice there. They're going to narrow the field, bring in the sidelines to make it a little less wide, sideline to sideline. Hayden says this change would have made the 2A championship insane. Both teams can't spread each other out as much. And Coach Thorngren, this I think is where it was kind of generated, was up north. I did notice, I think 12 of the 13 White Pine League coaches were on board with this rule proposal. Not surprisingly, Kendrick was the one that wasn't.
Yeah. So it comes around. It comes around eventually. I think it does it levels the playing field. I mean, the team with the most athletes is probably still going to win. They're going to have advantages, but they'll have to work a little harder to make them work. I think it'll keep some of the scores up in the 90s and hundreds. It'll kind of keep that from happening. But I like the change. I'm fine with it.
Now here's a question from Sean Kane in the chat, one of our broadcasters from East Idaho. How would you do it at state? Yeah, that's part of the side that will that I've heard of that's not in favor of this necessarily. One of the things they brought up is, okay, you're playing at these college facilities. How are you going to, move the sidelines in? Those sidelines are permanently marked.
Oklahoma, they just put like a nylon strap right at the bottom of the numbers on so like at ISU or the Kibbe Dome, they got a nylon strap that they put down there, stretches it out, and that's pretty much your sidelines. Now you don't have hashes painted, but then they spot the ball usually instead of putting it all the way out on a hash, they'll bring it in a couple yards from the hash, every time, make sure it's at least positioned there. So, I mean, it's just a couple straps that they put down and can take off in a matter of minutes. So it's doable.
Yeah.
Sam's the solution guy. I like that.
Here's Gunnar Holloway, former starting center and linebacker for the Logos Knights. He says, I don't like the change. I'm glad Logos is moving up next year. Yeah, Logos moving up to 11-man football. So they're not going to have to worry about it. I will say I did talk to a coach this past week that is not in favor of it. And his rationale basically was it has caused offenses to become more innovative. It's not just we're going to line up and run it down your throat. Now, there's still some teams that do that, and shortening or narrowing the field would lend more to that style of play. But this coach said, I've liked the creativity that I can do with my offense of I can spread it out. I can do some different things to try and get my athletes in space.
You can still spread it out.
Not as much.
It's not as much, but.
Hey, Coach Thorngren, is that a Butte County t-shirt you're wearing?
It is.
That's a good-looking t-shirt.
I still remember you picking against me in the title game 2 years ago.
Whoa!
Oh, yeah.
Boom, boom.
No, I can get one for you. I got one. Yeah. No,
Hey.
I'll get you a shirt.
Oh, Will's out. Okay. On that note, Gage George did ask in the chat, and since he is such a standout player for the Tri-Valley Titans, do you guys think will come out on top of it? Kerry and Tri-Valley. Okay, the request has been put out there. Anybody brave enough to proffer a guess?
Nope, I'm broadcasting it.
I'll get my prediction. Coach Kirkland, I already made the prediction last night on our Gem State Game Day show. I think Tri-Valley is just on a roll, just an all-time heater here. They're kind of like the snowball rolling down the hill. They're just picking up more and more momentum. I think I could see it being like a one-score game, certainly, but I think maybe a two-score game where all it's going to take is one or two empty possessions for the Panthers, and all of a sudden Tri-Valley, just because they just always seem to end each drive with a touchdown, you have to be almost perfect on offense. And so I will take Tri-Valley to get revenge for that 2017 setback.
Well, I tipped my hand earlier. Had Natalie won her wrestling match tonight in Tri-Valley, I probably would have gone Tri-Valley, but I'm Team Kerry right now. Tri-Valley, you got to win me back.
Okay, Coach Kirkland, I'm sure you'll be picking the Panthers.
I'm calling the game with Paul. But I'm a Panther fan. I think the Panthers are going to cause some turnovers, and that's what's going to carry them. It's going to be a squeaker. They're going to have to control the clock and get some fourth down stops. But, yeah, why not? I love those Panthers.
It's going to be a high-scoring squeaker, I think.
I like that. That might be the title of our episode, High-Scoring Squeaker. I like that. Coach Thorngren, do you have an official prediction? You can abstain if you want.
Well, I see a path to victory for either team. Everyone's talking about trying to control Tri-Valley's running game, and that's not going to happen to me. I'd feel good if we held them under 300. I mean, I don't think it's possible to hold them much less than that, but I got the feeling that Carey's going to come up with a couple of clutch stops, but I mean, I'm 50-50 on it, really. This game could swing either way. So they're two great teams, should be a fun game. This is probably the hardest game of all the championship games to pick this week. I respect both teams, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but I kind of just have that feeling that Carey's going to make the plays when they need to. Two big stops.
Okay, the Thorngren house in lockstep. Lacey says, does that Panther on the wall behind Coach's back seem scared? Nope. Panthers are going to come ready to pounce.
Nice.
That's right. And here's JT in the chat. Will, I seen you on our sideline at the council game all night. I know you're cheering for us. Busted.
I'm just getting called out left and right tonight.
Right.
Oh, good
Don't
time.
be tardy. Don't be tardy anymore, Will.
Oh, I'll do my best.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Sam Thorngren, head coach of the Butte County Pirates, thank you for hopping on tonight and helping us sort through what's going to be a really fun 1A state championship matchup. I never thought of all the coaches I would have to reach out to break down the 1A championship game. It would be Butte County coach Sam Thorngren, but we appreciate your expertise tonight.
Hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate being on here.
Of course. All right. We are going to take a break. When we come back, we'll look at the other state championship game with another special guest coach coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's the 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
Idaho's 529 can be used at any in-state or out-of-state 2- or 4-year college or university. Can be used at a trade school for an apprenticeship.
Whatever it is that your kid is interested in, that's available for them to use the fund.
I really like the flexibility. It gives Wild the opportunity to pursue a whole array of training.
So whatever your child's passion is, you can support that.
To learn more, go to idsaves.org.
Welcome back to the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Getting ready for the 2A state championship game here. While I am trying to get our next guest set up, let's talk about what happened this past week in terms of the semifinals. Not as much drama, not as much flair as we had in the 1A state semifinals, certainly. I guess we should start with the top dog, or the top cat, as it were, the Kendrick Tigers. This is the game that I was at, but I would like to get everybody else's thoughts on this one first. 82-6 victory for the Kendrick Tigers over the Grace Grizzlies. Will, message sent once again by the Tigers.
Yeah, big time. Grace was a team that I thought, and I still believe they have the athletes to trade punches with Kendrick. But when Kendrick's playing the way they did last week, there's just not anybody in the classification that can do anything with that. In case in point, right there on your screen, Gavin Draper, a young man who's got a pretty legitimate claim to be in the conversation for 2A State Player of the Year. They harassed him all night. They harassed that entire team all night. They were really, really, really impressive. I think that this says a lot more about Kendrick than it does Grace.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's actually a really good point. That it says more about Kendrick than Grace. That's a great 9-2 team. That's a really good night. They came in 9-1. Great players, great athletes, and I think you can be upset about it, but you're in the company of a lot of other good teams when you look at a score like that, right? Where it's happened to others, it's going to happen again as they're going down to 1A next year. So, Grace, it was unfortunate timing that they ran up against Kendrick in the semifinals, I think. Coach, did you have a chance to watch Grace play at all this year?
A little bit on some film here and there. I did watch this game. I don't know what it was, Friday night or something, I think it was. And Kendrick just looked so powerful. Being able to run the ball, their downfield blocking was amazing. Just big play after big play on the ground this time, with Maddox Kirkland only throwing 3 touchdowns this time. But on display were the legs and the blocking and the efficiency of the play calling of the Kendrick Tigers. And it just kind of overwhelmed Grace. I'm not so sure they were quite ready for what was coming their direction, even though they are a superior team. And I'm proving that by being able to get to the semifinals up against a good team that's rolling. That's just going to happen sometimes.
Now, Will, as you traveled around a ton going to different games, did you get a chance to see Grace at all this year in person?
I did. I saw them most of the first 3 quarters against Adrian, and Adrian, a very Kendrick-esque team. Adrian is one of the dominant 8-man programs in Oregon, and it's located about, a good 7-iron away from my house right here in Parma. So I went over and watched that, and it was somewhat instructive in that Grace was maybe outspeeded a little bit, but they were not out efforted. They were not out anything like that. They were just kind of chasing for a while. And when you get behind, and it can get really challenging. And when you get behind Kendrick, and they can just throw wave after wave after wave of immensely talented playmakers at you, it's almost not fair, And I say that respectfully because Kendrick has earned it, and I'm not trying to downplay Grace at all. It's a great football team.
But I think that's something with Kendrick. And then I was going to talk about it with Logos anyway, was exactly that. You can't get behind. You get behind, you're toast because you're not going to catch back up. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's where I thought coming into this game. I asked Grace coach Travis Draper about an hour before kickoff. I said, what is the game plan tonight? I said, are you trying to slow it down? Or are you trying to play at Kendrick's tempo? And he said, honestly, I don't know yet. Still, I'm debating both strategies. And if you've got any suggestions, I'm open to it. Like I'm going to have the game winning formula or something. But I thought that Grace conceptually did some really nice things. They had they drove on their first 2 possessions. They drove fairly deep into Kendrick territory, but just a couple of missed executions. They had a couple of screen passes where linemen were like in the way of where the screen was going. They had a play where they were going to hit the tight end on a seam and he dropped it. I mean, I thought they had a lot of creative plays that would have worked, and then they just didn't quite execute, didn't play perfectly, and then they got down a couple scores, and that completely changed the complexion of the game. Ryan Skaggs in the chat, Will, says, Will, any late attendance due to wrestling is absolutely excused. So,
wrestling coach.
And this just in, Tigers just scored again. Yeah, we've used that joke for about 5 years now with the Kendrick Tigers. Hayden says Kendrick by 50 versus Adrian. Hot take? I don't think so. I don't know. Will, you saw Adrian with your own eyes. I'm not qualified to talk about that.
I think Kendrick probably wins, but I think that it's a competitive football game. I think Adrian and Kendrick are analogous in a lot of ways in that both teams had a lot of playmakers. I think Kendrick was a little bigger, like physically a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, and that's probably the difference.
Yeah, and Kendrick, I mean, probably the craziest play of the game was this interception return for a touchdown by Cade Silflo. He took back a 50-yard pick six. Essentially, Grace threw the pass to Parker Yost. It bounced off his helmet and into the hands of Silflo. He bobbled it and then secured it and then ran for the score. I was broadcasting the game, and I looked down at my roster to make sure it was Yost who the intended receiver was, and I looked up and Silflo was at like the 10-yard line, and I'm like, what happened here? But that's the danger of this Kendrick team, Coach Kirkland, is you can blink and miss a big play, and they've just put up 6.
Yeah, they're very effective, and this has been the list all season long. Everybody's putting in their time, and they're scoring touchdowns on the ground or through the air. Very, very efficient and able to get a lot of things done. You know, one of the fun things after the Council Carry game was to meet up with Charlie Shepard Sr. on the sideline, and we got a photo together and we talked for a bit. And he brought up the idea. Which team from Salmon River, which team from Cary? Oh, look at that.
Yeah, look at
that's
that.
the photo.
Who's that goon in the middle?
Right? I felt very out of place sitting there with 2 absolute legends of the game right there.
Yeah, 14 state championships in that picture. And, Paul, you contributed none of them.
State basketball, 1993, New Plymouth.
That was the Chris Bauman championship. Let's not kid ourselves.
Hey, I was on that team. I didn't
Yep.
play, but yeah, no, this was absolutely. I mean, in the presence of legends here. They were talking for a while. We were, Clay Hatfield and I were watching, and we were talking about it. I was like snapping photos like a creeper on the side, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get a picture with them. I mean, how often do you get to stand, with greatness like that? So that's actually going to be going up on my wall framed very soon.
Yeah, that's a compliment, Paul. Thank you. It was a lot of fun to talk to Charlie, and he explored the thought. He says, which Cary team, which Salmon River team could hold up to Kendrick? And we really couldn't put a thumb on it necessarily. So I don't know if any of us could have, but it was fun to think about and to chat about our experiences over the years.
I've said this a lot over the years, doing a lot of these Kendrick games in the playoffs when they've been on this run. Grace is a good team. Grace is even a great team. Kendrick is an historically great team, and they make great teams look not so good. So that's something we also have to remember and keep in mind. Will, you were just getting lambasted in the comments here. Hayden, didn't you say it would be competitive last week too, Will? And then he followed up with, Will is the true GOAT. Much love. Here's Kenna Wagoner from Tri-Valley. Sorry, Will, 12 of the 20 Tri-Valley players wrestle. We have a good program. They start young, and a good girls wrestling program at Tri-Valley as well.
Yes, they had 17 middle school wrestlers, which, I mean, how many 1A programs, 1A/2A, have a wrestling program, period, let alone 17 middle schoolers doing it? It's impressive. It's very impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. Shout out to the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast, which will get going in December. That's our wrestling only Prepcast we do usually on Tuesday nights. And Ryan Skaggs in the chat talking about Cade Silflo. Silflo is him. If I'm not mistaken, last year he had a TD per reception in the state title game, which, checks out. I mean, it was pretty remarkable. Here's Wallace Miners Athletics in the chat. You should see everyone in their eyes when Kendrick shows up to the Montana Tech football camp. No one scores on them there either. So, Coach, if you're not scoring on them in the summer, you're really not going to score on them in the regular season.
It tends to be, it tends to happen for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a comment that I just pulled up from our Facebook account, and I think it's from one of the posts, probably the schedule promotion post, but just happened. Parker Yost commented, I hope Logos destroys Kendrick. That was his take in the comments there. It wasn't going to happen here, but yeah.
Understandable.
Senior tight end linebacker for the Grace Grizzlies, who I thought played really well on Friday night, actually, there. So let's give our final farewell here to the Grace Grizzlies. They finished the season 9-2. It's one of the best seasons in Grace history. Travis Draper, what a debut season after 4 years as the assistant coach. The problem here, Will, is of the 7 guys that are listed here on this 3-star players list, 6 are seniors. Cooper Anderson, Gavin Draper, Carter Kimball, Bryant Moss, Chase Smith, Parker Yost, Cade Kimball, the only 3-star coming back. Now, they do have, freshman Tate Stoddard scored the only touchdown for Grace late in that contest, but it is going to be a little bit of a soft reset for Grace next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a different look for sure. Cade Kimball, great-looking young player in a long line of Kimballs. We talk about family names that feel like they've been around programs for years. That would be Grace. So you have Cade Kimball. You have a few other kids who were in the mix and making plays for them this year. But when you take those 6 names there, Bryant Moss, Chase Smith, Parker Yost, Gavin Draper, who we've talked about, those are some incredible football players. And it's not as easy, and Coach Kirkland, you can talk about this. It's not as easy as saying, well, it's Gabe Saili's graduating, but we got this freshman who will just come in and seamlessly fill those boots. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, especially in that 2A league where anybody else can match that as well. There's a lot more on the roster from some of these larger schools, but seniority carries a lot in the 2A, I think, because the number of kids on rosters, and it'll be a difficult thing for Grace to rebound from that. But Coach Draper has got a feel for it now, and they made it to the semifinals. That's going to breed some hunger in that program. And they'll rise again with whoever they have.
Yeah, and a really cool story I found out about Grace, Paul. You'll like this. This is what makes IdahoSports.com better than anyone else that's going out there trying to broadcast these games. The stories, because we take the time to talk to the coaches, learn about the kids, learn about the teams, learn about the towns, learn about the communities. It's not easy to get from Grace to Moscow, to where the Kibbe Dome is. Grace decided to go through the Boise Valley on their way up, and they went up that way instead of going through Montana. They stopped at the College of Idaho on their way over on Thursday and practiced there. And then they went up to Grangeville, and that's where they stayed the night. Well, Grangeville to Moscow is not that far, right? Only an hour and change.
Yeah.
So they get up Friday morning. They've got some time to kill. Coach Draper takes the boys down to the Senior Citizen Center in Grangeville, and they spent the morning playing cards, chatting with the senior citizen folks in Grangeville. And next thing you know, there's a piano sitting in the corner. Coach Draper's wife knows how to play the piano. She starts playing. They start singing, and it was just a fun-filled morning. It's something those boys will never forget.
That's incredible. I mean, that's awesome. Good for him to recognize that. You know, a lot of coaches, but I got some time to kill, guys. Let's go run through some stuff. No, let's go ahead and build some character in these young men while we have a chance. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's not the destination. Sometimes it's the journey along the way, and they'll never forget that. That's awesome.
Yep, really fun story I wanted to share there with with the Grace football team for sure. So, okay, let's move on to our other semifinal from last week. This one kicked off about an hour after the Kendrick game did. And every time I looked, it looked like Logos had scored another touchdown. Logos got up big early and really took Kamiah out of what they wanted to do and kind of got them playing behind the 8 ball. 44-18, the final score here, Will. And so, Coach and I both picked Kamiah on the show last week. Will, you correctly picked Logos, so I will let you own the moment here.
Well, you were talking about Tri-Valley kind of be on an upward crescendo. I think that's Logos. I think that they started the year trying to solve a couple of things, and I think they've pretty clearly solved them. And they've got good balance. They've got good depth, and we've talked ad nauseum on this show about their offensive and, in particular, their defensive line. And their defensive line made life miserable for Kamiah in that game. And it felt like every time Kamiah was on the verge of doing something, all of a sudden there's Josh Prince or there's Peter Story, and boom, end of drive, end of momentum, end of whatever. They were tremendous. They were really, really good.
Yeah, really fun game. Joseph Sensing, the Logos quarterback, did not play in this contest. We are expecting him to be back for this championship game. So Baxter Covington takes the controls, coach, and 4 of 4, 45 yards, a touchdown, 8 carries, 120 yards, 3 scores. Pretty nice day at the office there for Mr. Covington.
Yeah, he looked great. I tuned into this one to watch for a bit, and they look solid. Did take control early on in the game and established themselves as the better team right off the bat. I think one thing, in my opinion, that kind of hurt Kamiah, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought this game, they should have taken this to the turf and given themselves a little better chance on a field that was a little more solid. Sometimes you get on those muddy fields, even if it's your home field, and you think you might have home field advantage, but the slippery field doesn't give anybody an advantage necessarily. And Logos, it didn't slow them down, but I thought the Kamiah was sliding all over the place, and it didn't help them as much as it could have.
Yeah, Lawson Landmark, throws for 3 touchdowns, but the completion percentage here, Paul, 14 of 32, lower than what we're used to seeing from Lawson, and also 32 pass attempts because they got down big. They had to throw the ball to try and get back in the game a little bit.
Right. Well, when it's sloppy to run in, it's going to be sloppy to throw in, and sloppy to catch in. It's going to be harder to hit the routes and all the way around. But you go for it, right? You have to go. If something's not working and you're in a game where it's you win or you move on to winter sports, it's like moving up to the 3. West Side did the same thing. They're a run team, and so they had to try and start passing against Napa Christian, 3 turnovers. So you have to do what you did that brought you there, but sometimes you have to go outside your comfort zone a little to try and make things happen. And when you're going up against a Logos team like this, You have to try, but it's just not going to happen.
For sure. In the chat, Stefan wants to know who picked Cammy. I did. We own it. When we're wrong, we own it. We love to be wrong, though. So will we pick against Logos again? Stay tuned. You'll have to find out. Hayden Eulencott says, shout out Garrison Brett's first-year coach at Cammy. I did a phenomenal job with his group this year. And he says he's in agreement with you, Coach. And Hayden was there broadcasting for us on Friday night. He said, love the fan environment, but Cammy has top-tier athletes that would have benefited greatly from playing on the turf. So, we'll never know. But Logos moves on. I did have a special guest coach lined up to help us break down this all White Pine League final. The idea was to get a coach from the White Pine League because they would have seen both of these teams throughout the year. Apparently, guys, there's a board of control meeting tonight in District 2. Every coach I reached out to is at that, and the meeting was in Clarkston, Washington, of all places. So not close to where anybody could be back home to do the show. So we are not going to have a special guest coach coming on for this segment. But
I was waiting for you to say you got like Patrick Young from Clark Fork or something to jump in.
That'd be cool.
That would be, but he didn't see either one of those teams this year, right? So
yeah, I mean, you had a 2A coach talking about the 1A championship game.
But he played both those teams.
Yeah.
Let's not split hairs here. Stay with me in the moment here.
Yeah.
So the four of us will have to trudge on, the four horsemen, as it were.
I just want to say, Will picked Logos. Let's just go back to that real quick.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
That's right. That's right. No dispute.
And I have a feeling I'm going to hear about it next week, Coach, if Kerry loses. So you need to let the boys know. Win one for the Gipper.
Okay. All right. They'll be excited to hear that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're going to go, what's a Gipper? What?
Will's the Gipper.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, let's take a look at this. Our final farewell for the Cammy Cubs. A 9-2 campaign. Only 2 losses were to Kendrick in the regular season. Logos in the state semifinals. Garrison Brett's first season taking over for Coach Nels Clute. Did a fantastic job. They do lose Everett Oatman, who I thought was kind of their most versatile player. He could play running back, he could play receiver, he could play linebacker, he could play DB. They lose Gavin Schoening as well, really good defensive player. They do bring back Lawson Landmark. He's going to be quarterbacking the team again next season. And they do bring back a couple of their offensive linemen. So, Will, those are some good building blocks to start for Cammy next year.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Damian Ochoa will be back next year, and he's got some versatility to him. And Todd Roberts, I think, was a junior. I might be wrong on that one. So there's a few pieces there, and whatever. I mean, I don't know how they do it in Cammy if they're out, logging all year, and then they just show up for football season. But it seems like every year they find a couple of, oh man, that kid's a pretty good little athlete. Let's plug him in a hole, and he turns out to be a key part of the puzzle for him.
Yep. I think Cammy will be set up pretty well. Hayden is just. Have you ever met Hayden Eulencott in person, Will?
I have not.
Do we have anybody
else
other than Idaho Sports guys?
Did you?
If he's spending this much time online,
yes.
Okay. My understanding is he's married, correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so he may be divorced here in a few minutes, and then we can meet in person and maybe go get a pizza or something.
Oh, seriously, Will, only 3 dudes on the 3 stars for Cammy. You didn't watch enough Cub football. Todd Roberts, Damian Ochoa. Hayden, that swings the other way. All you did was like White Pine games this year, so you're wearing the White Pine tinted glasses.
Yes,
a little bit there as well.
Hey, no shame in that. No shame in that.
Hey, do not question Will Hennicke's commitment. He drove to Nez Perce on a Saturday afternoon to watch the Lewis County Eagles play. Who did they play again?
Genesee. That was I took my daughter, no wrestling that day. Sorry, Ryan. Took my daughter and her cousin, and we made a day out of it. It was a blast. It was a beautiful day. Monty Madrell was up there. His dad was there. Got to meet all sorts of people from around town. They've got a great little restaurant there. That was one of my favorite trips that I've ever taken.
Yeah, for sure. Hayden says, I am watching my daughter, wife's out of the house. So there you go. Okay. On that note, let's take a look at these 2 combatants as they enter the arena for this all White Pine League championship. In terms of history, one school has a ton, one school has none, because this is their first championship game in school history. But you have to remember, Logos has only been playing organized football for, I think, 4 years now, or maybe 5. Not that long. So there it is. Logos Knights, one championship game appearance in their school history. It's on Thursday night, so who knows how it will go. They are moving up to the 11-man ranks next year. So barring some sort of reversal in the future here, this will be the first and only 8-man championship game for Logos in their school history.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to think that it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about them going, man, are they going to pick this up, or is this going to be, a one and done thing? And boom, here they are. They're just growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, and I've talked about this on some of the other shows, but Logos, the idea is they're building this brand new, beautiful campus on the east end of Moscow. It's connected to a local church there in town. They've got all of this land for this big campus. Coach, the first thing they built, the football field. Got to like that.
It's important. It's what pays the bills in high school. Oh, well, maybe taxes pay those bills too. But that'll certainly attract a lot of kids there. I know they have a great track and field program, and kudos to them for making this step upward. They'll have the numbers, and they got the coaching staff, and I think they'll have a good time on a 53-yard wide field.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about the shortening of the field, or the narrowing of the field, as Coach Thorngren corrected me on there. Logos, the idea is our campus is going to be so big, so expansive. We're going to be playing 11-man football eventually anyways. We might as well just jumpstart on that this year. And oh, by the way, their JV beat Orofino's varsity this season, and that's the league they're joining next year, the Central Idaho League. Stefan in the chat says 6-year program, 5 years of varsity. And they kind of took that group in junior high. They started at the junior high level, Jack Driscoll's class, and kind of worked their way through with those guys. So the progression of Logos, how they did it, I think they did it the right way. You start at the junior high level, and then each year they go in, you graduate to freshman, JV, varsity. I thought they did a pretty good job there. Coach Monty Madrell in the chat. So, Paul, it's not just IdahoSports.com people that are tuning in tonight here. Reminiscing about that afternoon in Nez Perce with you, Will. Great day. Tough one for the good guys. Thanks for making the trek, Will. Kendrick plus 28 was the last time I checked the Vegas odds. Thanks for all you guys do for 8-man ball. So
it's a good day for the onside kicker from Genesee. That doesn't do Coach Madrell any good, but
boy, Genesee found out you live by the onside kick, you die by the onside kick in that wild game with Wallace 2 weeks ago for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been a record-setting year with onside kicks throughout both leagues. It's been really incredible and interesting to watch that occur.
The other one that was interesting to watch as we veer wildly off tangent here, I can't count how many this year of all the years I've been watching 8-man football. I don't think I've ever seen as many teams intentionally kick the ball out of bounds as I saw this year. I saw that a ton this year.
Don't want to give it to the electrifying return man. And Coach, I feel like this year, I don't know if it's a record number, but every week there's multiple kick return, punt returns for touchdowns every week too.
Yeah, there's been quite a few of those. And if they do narrow this field to 40 yards, that might solve that issue to some degree. My wishes is to go to 47 yards, 3 off of each side.
Yeah, okay. Spoken like a true politician there, Coach Kirkland.
Future Mayor Kerry right there.
Yeah, running for office in 2026. Okay, let me ask you this, because I love tapping into your mind as a coach. What's your philosophy on the onside kicks?
Oh man, I don't know if they're fair or not, but it's what you got to do to make things happen. Yeah, you got to practice them. You got to practice returning them, and you got to practice with the 7 guys that are up front just by kicking balls at them on the ground. There's drills for that kind of thing, just with those guys that are there. But I'm telling you, you never know where that ball is going. And do I like it? Hey, it's a weapon, and it can be used against you as well. So I don't know. It's like roulette.
I'll tell you this too, Coach Madrell, if you're still watching, plug your ears. Genesee appeared to be identifying one particular Lewis County player, and wherever he lined up, he was kind of on that second line. Wherever he lined up, they kicked it the other direction. And they onside kicked 6 or 7 times in that game, and they probably recovered 4 of them. And every time it's, where's number 11? Okay, he's over there. We're kicking it that way. And I don't even know that they were really trying to hide it that hard. It's just they felt like that was their opportunity, and so that's what they did.
Yeah, did you onside
kick, Coach, about practicing and coaching and being intentional about how you do it? It's not just go nub the ball and see what happens.
Yeah. Did you onside kick it a lot in your career, Coach Kirkland?
No, not a whole bunch, honestly. My dad did quite a bit back in the day and got over half of them. But no, I never did a whole bunch of that. It is an effective tool, and you just hope for the best. What if we switched to 15 yards instead of 10?
Oh,
let's just start something new. What if we played 5-man football?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Typically, you did the onside kick if you're playing from behind, and Coach Kirkland just never did that. So there's no reason to onside kick if you're never playing from behind.
Sure.
All right, look
Sounds
at that. Paul knows he's got to sit with him all day Saturday on the broadcast. So you're buttering up your color guy. That's
favorite color guy, favorite broadcast partner ever.
That's right.
There you go. Thanks.
Okay, in the chat, we've got several Kendrick Tiger emojis going on here. Shea Stewart with a pack of tigers, and Cody Cooper with a pack of tigers. So let's get back on track here. The Kendrick Tigers making their 14th championship game appearance in school history. They are 7-6 all time in the Big One. Some really fun battles over the years, going back to 1985, their very first year, and kind of a variety of opponents, right? Oakley, Raft River, Garden Valley, Council, Cary, Idaho City, Horseshoe Bend, Hagerman. It's like it's almost a different team every single year, Will, that they have either lost to or played in the championship. So that's good variety.
Yeah, and I remember both those Idaho City game and that Horseshoe Bend game. The Idaho City game was played at Boise State. The Horseshoe Bend game was played up in Moscow, and the town cop was about the only person left in Horseshoe Bend that day. The whole town went up there, and Kendrick said, "Thanks for coming. Leave your money on the way out of town, and we'll just take the trophy and go home."
Yep.
And you see this recent run they've been on here, Coach, starting in 2021. Kendrick is going for their 5th consecutive state championship. They've just gotten progressively more dominant, right? They barely sneak past Cary that first year, 30-24. They beat Dietrich by 2 scores the next year, 42-34. Then, 68-0 over Camas, and then 50-14 last year over Butte County. They just seem to be getting stronger and stronger with each passing year.
Yeah, and programs can do this. If you bounce back to 2018 and 2019, Cary's laying the same wood on Kendrick as they are on teams this year. And by 21, they had caught up and had a great first half against us, and just continue to excel from there. Perhaps a signature win for them in this run that they're going on. And that's what you build upon. And that's what Coach Hobart, I think, would say is we just needed to know we need to get better. And Cary helped us to get to that level. And now we're on our own, and we're kicking some butt and having a lot of fun doing it. And nobody's stopping us so far.
Yep, for sure. Coach Madrell in the chat, just wrapping up our conversation about the onside kicks and stuff. He said it was an inside clinic. Kudos to Coach Hansen. Onside clinic, I think there. Kudos to Coach Hansen from Genesee. Keep talking 8-man football, fellas. Yeah, no doubt about it there. So
all night long.
Yes.
We're just going to keep going.
Yeah, we'll just keep the live stream going until tomorrow night for the first championship, which is Logos and Kendrick. So let's get to it. What does Logos have to do? Oh, hold on. Sorry. Before I get to your
Am I about to get slammed again?
No. This is a nice cameo here. The man himself, again, we think historically, not just one of the youngest head coaches currently, but one of the youngest head coaches of all time. Ty Kep, head coach of the Kendrick Tigers. Still remember Coach Kirkland coming up and talking to me after the game in 2021. What an impact, Coach.
Oh yeah. He slung the ball really well that game. That second quarter, I don't know. I think they had 3 scores in a row that were just incredible with a great game plan, and he was a stud then, and still getting it done right now from the sideline. So a lot of respect for you, Coach Kep. Good luck this week.
How old was Coach Kep in 2021? Like 6th grade, 7th grade?
Hey, hold on.
7th and 8th.
A sophomore, I think. Yeah.
It's amazing to me to think of where they're at right now with him at the helm. And he's had to make some adjustments. He's had to coach, right? He was playing in this game 2 years ago. It's crazy to me.
I did get to talk to Ty on the field before the game last Friday. The 2 big things, he said, sorry I wasn't out here sooner. I was taping up my guys. And I said, Coach, you got to delegate that to somebody else. Yeah. Like you're the head man. Okay. You can't be spending that precious time taping guys up. The second thing he said was, my guys are really excited to play Grace because it's a different look. Everybody in the White Pine just lines up and runs the ball. Grace is going to spread it out, and our DBs are going to be challenged. And so they were looking forward to the challenge. And that tells me, Will, that they are finding ways to motivate themselves beyond just, hey, let's go get the win, which is dangerous for a team like Logos because the motivation could be very easy for Kendrick. Hey, this is the one team that was kind of close with us this year. Let's go out and, prove that they're just like everybody else.
Yeah, and this is the one team that really, from the Kendrick standpoint, when those guys are talking, this team punched us in the mouth. They had us on our heels. We're not going to let that happen again. You know that's the mindset. That's the conversation, and I think that's really it can be very cliche to say, but the first 4 or 5 minutes of that game on Thursday night are going to go a long, long way because Logos is good enough. They proved it. For a half, they were right there, toe for toe. Kendrick made some good adjustments, pulled away in the second half. So Logos can do it, okay? But the thing is, Kendrick knows Logos can do it. So you're not going to have any chance of a team that just kind of cruises in, to get the jersey exchange and hoist the trophy. They know they're going to have to show up ready to go.
Yeah. Coach Kirkland, we haven't checked in on Kendrick statistically too much this season because it's just been so dominant, and like a typical stat line is like Rally Rotes at center, 2 carries, 69 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? But I did ask Ty to compile some season-long statistics for me ahead of the broadcast last week, and I was absolutely floored when I saw some of the defensive numbers he gave me, particularly from his 2 defensive ends. On the one side, you've got Nathan Kimberline, 15 sacks. I'm like, holy smokes, that's really good. Then I looked at the other defensive end, Ty's younger brother, Colt Kep, 24 sacks, and he had one more last Friday, 25 sacks on the season.
Yeah, 40 between the 2 ends, keeping it in tight.
Yep.
That's deadly.
Is your dad keeping stats? Is that what's going on? That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers.
Yeah, those are crazy numbers. And if you got defensive ends that are dominating like that, the game is going to go your way for sure.
And then in the Grace game last Friday night, the nose tackle, Travis Hicks, he came through with the first 2 sacks of the game. And he's like, hey, don't forget about me. I can also get after the quarterback. So, Paul, you asked if Colt's dad was keeping the stats. Robin kept. He was wearing a T-shirt on Friday night, and it had like a picture of Colt when he was like really little on his shirt. It was like an embarrassing like child photo that was just blown up full size on a T-shirt. It was pretty funny. So
rocking it as a dad. Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Will, talking about great pass rushers, all of you guys saw it week 1 against Hagerman on the Logos side with Peter Story and Josh Prince. Logos also has a defensive line that can get after it.
Yeah, tremendous defensive line. I think it's the rival of any 8-man team in the region, not just the state, in the region with Story and Finn McCool works in there some, and Josh Prince. They can absolutely take over a game. And Coach Kirkland and I watched it with our own eyes against Hagerman. I watched it on Idaho Sports last week, where they were just all over Lawson Landmark and just made his life absolutely miserable, not able to get back and set his feet and go through any kind of progression. It was like, okay, I got one read and then I'm running for my life. And that's something that they were able to do a little bit to Maddox Kirkland in the first half. The first time that these guys played, they got him kind of off his timing and his rhythm a little bit. And that was one of the adjustments that I thought was really smart. Look, we know Maddox Kirkland can go win a game for you, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to run it right at them. And we're going to just hammer them with our small army of running backs, and we're going to try and grind them down. And sure enough, they did.
Yeah, Coach, let me ask you, what does Logos have to do to tilt the scales in their favor? And they're the only team that's beaten Kendrick in the past 2 years. What do they have to do to beat Kendrick here and win the state championship?
I think they kind of already did a little bit earlier this year in that game that Will was referring to, but I think there'll be a few different blocking schemes to go along with that so that there's a backup plan in action and to keep that ball moving. They've got to control the clock. I mean, look at the points that Kendrick's putting up. I don't think they punted, maybe 25 years, but they've been able to move the ball very efficiently and score very quickly. So Logos has got to control that line of scrimmage. They got to get first downs. They got to keep the clock in their possession. And I would say limit Kendrick to perhaps only 2 possessions a quarter if possible in this 8-man game that moves pretty quickly sometimes. But and they cannot make mistakes. No mistakes. Very few penalties, if any at all. And they got to hang on to the football to give themselves a chance late into this game.
Yeah, I would add to that because Grace did this fairly well. They would get 3, 4, 5 yards a run. But then they would drop back to pass and get sacked. You cannot have any negative yardage plays. You have to constantly be on schedule ahead of the chains against that Kendrick defense there. So let's make our picks and then let's get the heck out of here because Paul, his Mountain Dew is gone. I can see him fading. So yeah, it's all empty there.
It looks like he's ready to lay down and take a little siesta here.
Yeah. So I will abstain from this game because I'm broadcasting it tomorrow night from the Kibby Dome on IdahoSports.com. But I would love to hear what you three have for a game prediction. Paul, you want to go first?
I will abstain as well. No, I already made my pick last night. Yeah. Again, Coach, I hope you still work for us as a broadcaster for football. Early on in the season, after watching Logos play Hagerman with you guys, I said, this might be the only team that can beat Kendrick. I mean, just because of sheer numbers, right? And they were bigger because I had seen Kendrick play the week before when they played Butte County and routed them in that opener. And I don't know. I because I did it last night, I'm going to pick Logos, but only if they really use the numbers. I mean, fresh guys. And if if they can really take advantage of the size they've got. So I'm going to pick them. And if I end up being right, I'm the man. And if not, it's going to be, well, of course I was wrong. So it's a pretty neutral pick, but hopefully Kendrick doesn't hate me for doing it.
We've got an emoji battle going on here. I showed you all the Kendrick Tiger emojis. Here's Gunnar Holloway, former outstanding center and middle linebacker and son of head coach Nick Holloway. Yeah, the Knight Swords for the Logos Knights.
I like it.
Looks good. So, Will, what's your prediction?
I think Kendrick wins the game, but I talked about this a little bit last week. I think Logos showed us there is a roadmap to beating this particular Kendrick team. You just have to be good enough, strong enough, and disciplined enough to execute it for 4 quarters because Kendrick is going to they're going to tweak, they're going to adjust, they're going to do some things, and that's when they really had success in the first half, they weren't trying to beat Kendrick to the edges, they were just running it straight ahead. Power football, Coach, what you were saying, we're talking 4-minute drives, 5-minute drives, limiting the amount of time that Kendrick had the ball in their hands. If they're able to do that for 4 quarters, Paul might be looking like a genius this time, Thursday night, because Logos is good enough to do it. It's going to be hard to do. I think Kendrick I think they have a little bit too much, and they've shown that they can adjust if they need to.
Coach, what do you think? All
right, I'm going to go with Kendrick again on this one. I watched that first part of that game against Grace, and I saw the weapons, I saw the speed, I saw the length of those guys getting down the sideline, and they just looked so fluid. And I think Coach Kep's going to dial up a game here, and he's going to take a championship.
Okay, I like it. Thanks for being on the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast tonight, Paul, especially. You're going to be broadcasting that 1A championship with Coach Kirkland on Saturday from Middleton. I'll be at the 2A championship tomorrow night from the Kibbe Dome. Will, I know, is going to be plugged into both games from the comfy couch at home. Unless you're hitting the road, Will, are you going to come up to Moscow?
Cannot make it up to Moscow on a Thursday night, but I do plan on watching. But I am hoping on Saturday, I am hoping to get over to that game in Middleton and watch that one.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. And for any coaches that are still playing and watching, we did this last year. I thought it was a lot of fun. For the show next week, we would love to have for the winning team, our 2 state champions, the head coach, along with our IdahoSports.com player of the game from the championship broadcast. Last year, we had Zane Hobart and Riley Rotsitsender from Kendrick, and we had Coach John Saili and Preston Wood from the Cary Panthers, and that was a lot of fun. Will it be Cary and Kendrick again, or will we be talking to a Logos Knight and a Tri-Valley Titan? We'll have to stay tuned and find out. Here's Wendy Clemenhagen, the last word, and there's the battle of the emojis continues in the comments. So on that note, thanks for tuning into the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast, everybody. Presented by Ideal, Idaho's college savings program. For Paul Kingsbury, Coach Lane Kirkland, and Will Henneke, I'm Brandon Maney. Enjoy the state championships. Remember, all 6 state championships on IdahoSports.com, free to tune into. Just click on the game streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. We'll see you back here next week for our final 8-Man Prepcast of the season, where we'll be talking to the state champs. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you next week here on IdahoSports.com.